absolutely unbelievable. It's a tie game! Woo! Finally! Go Leafs, go! It's not baseball, but let's see a rally. Let's go Leafs! Shh.
Wow. Let's talk, everybody. Let's talk, Leafs Nation. How's it going? Not too great, I assume, after watching this display from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yet again, another one-goal performance. The Toronto Maple Leafs fall 4-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes, led by Frederik Andersen in goal. That's something that's going to be difficult to get used to. It's really difficult to get used to that. That's something that's strange, and it's going to look strange for a while. How'd everyone feel about Frederik Andersen tonight? I just want to really address this one comment I saw here before I even started the stream. I'm trying to find it here. There's a comment that said, this can't happen forever, or something like that. The comment was, this can't happen forever. It can't go on like this forever, can it? And my response is, what have you seen from this team that's making you believe otherwise? What have you seen from the Toronto Maple Leafs what have you seen from this team that makes you believe you're going to get a different result? What makes you believe that this team is going to make it into the playoffs and make it past the first round? They have to make it into the playoffs before they even get there, but they have to score goals. This team's strength is supposed to be their offense. This is an offensive team. The way it's constructed, you have 4 players offensively making a large portion of your salary cap, earning that money, and the results are not showing up. The results are not showing up for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They haven't even scored more than 3 goals in one game yet this season. I know it's only game 7. I know it's only the 7th game of the season. But they haven't scored more than 3 goals once in any of these games, and it's an offensive-minded team. That's concerning. You know what else is concerning about this team? Well, it's always gonna relay back to last season because of just the sheer disappointment from last season. Last season is something that this team should have used as motivation, and they still can, I hope. I hope they can somehow turn this around into motivation. But this team looks lifeless, and I'm not saying that they don't care, because I do believe that these players care. You have to care to get to this point. But wow, they look lifeless and emotionless out there. The Toronto Maple Leafs look lifeless and emotionless, and that's really scary for a team that just got pounded 7-1 by the Pittsburgh Penguins, that looked like an AHL roster, because they don't have Sidney Crosby, they don't have Chris Letang, they don't have Evgeny Malkin, and they don't have Brian Rust. And now the Carolina Hurricanes. You're going up against your former goaltender, the goalie who's 4th in wins by a Maple Leafs goaltender. And now you see this. You follow it up with this performance. It's disappointing. It's disappointing, but it's not surprising. Donnie says they didn't learn from the Columbus series. It's been going on for longer than that. Longer than that. We can go further back. But why would we do that to ourselves? We have a lot more of this ahead of us. Power play sucks too. Yeah, the power play has been a problem, and like I said, that's a concern for a team who is offensive minded. This team has invested so much money into their forward group, and they haven't scored more than 3 goals once this season. You have, I think it's clear that this model hasn't been working up to this point, and it hasn't looked promising early on this season. You have to give them a bit more time here, but I know it's an 82 game season, but stuff can stuff can slip away from you really quickly in the NHL. Jason says the only bright side for the Maple Leafs right now is their penalty kill. The penalty's been great. The penalty kill has been great, but I mean, I just that's great. It's great to have a good penalty kill, but you need to score more goals, especially as an offensive-minded team. I keep hearing that the goals are going to come. The goals are going to come. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm really down on this team right now. And can you blame me? Can you blame me for being down on this team right now? I'm not trying to be pessimistic about this team because I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. I have a whole channel about this team. I invest a lot of time into this team as well. But it's really disappointing, and it's hard to wrap my head around some of these things. I see a team getting blown out by a squad they had no business even losing to. And then they follow it up with this performance, an offensive minded team who hasn't scored more than 3 goals and yet this year. Frederik Andersen, like, we didn't even challenge Frederik Andersen that much tonight. We got our shots on goal, but it's not like Frederik Andersen had to make a lot of saves. He wasn't standing on his head. It's frustrating. Let's see. Uh, the goals are going to come when Marner and the other stars actually come to play. Yeah, I mean, we saw Austin Matthews get his 200th career goal tonight. His first of the season. It's not enough. We need to see more from the Toronto Maple Leafs big guys, and we can point the fingers at a lot of places. You know what? Let's not even talk about goal production right now. I'm looking at Morgan Riley. There was this one play in the game where I was just left scratching my head. Morgan Riley, I hope you noticed this play as well. Morgan Riley, he's carrying the puck and he brings it past the blue line, the Maple Leafs blue line. So he's breaking out of his own zone and he just passed the puck straight down the ice. Like, it was nice. It was clearly going to be an icing all the way through. There was no one in the vicinity of the pass. The things that this team's doing are really confusing. I'm left scratching my head so many times. You can point the fingers at so many places. Nick Ritchie's a guy who I haven't noticed him. I really haven't noticed him all that much, and he's a big guy. He was supposed to be someone who came in and filled the big void, filled some big shoes for us. He's down on the fourth line now. Michael Bunting. You know what? I think he's been good. I think Michael Bunting was a nice addition for this team. Uh, but our stars haven't played up to par. John Tavares, he needs to be better. He needs to produce more. Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner, Mitch Marner, Mitch Marner. And then Austin Matthews. He's got 1 goal. We need more from these guys. D. Boyd says, I wish Simmons had a fought tonight. I don't care who it is. I wish Solon would have fought tonight. Somehow spark this team. Give this team some sort of life, some sort of spark. I don't care who it is. Somebody's got to show someone's got to show emotion. Give this team a spark because it's just really frustrating. Leafs and Raptors, too many turnovers. The Raptors, they lose to the Chicago Bulls tonight. I didn't see. Throw Spets on the first line and put Marner on the third or fourth line. Well, Mitch Marner was already moved from the first line tonight. There are some line changes. Mitch Marner went down on the second line. He's now playing with he's now playing with John Tavares and Alex Kerfoot. And then on your first line, you have Michael Bunting beside Austin Matthews and William Nylander. I think that this line change was coming for a while now. We've been talking a lot about how Marner and Matthews are great, and when they're playing together, when they're on cue together, they are playing great. When they play great, they they're amazing, and it's really hard to think about separating them. But what we've seen from them ever since last year's playoff series, really, it hasn't been good enough, and they need to try some new things. They need to experiment with this lineup because they need some more production somehow. Somehow this team needs to get production. I remember last season we were talking about how the Montreal Canadiens needed to hold teams to under 3 goals to win games. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now with this Toronto Maple Leaf squad. Early in the season at least. I hope that doesn't happen throughout the season because this is an offensive team. They should be scoring goals, but they haven't been. Jason Brooks says Leafs are lacking confidence, no energy or drive. They didn't seem to want it. The second period has been the worst for the Leafs this year. Yeah, you know what? That's a great comment from Jason Brooks right there. Sums it up pretty well. No energy, no drive, no confidence. This team's playing lifeless. They're skating around like a bunch of zombies out there. And when they score, it's not a big deal. They're not getting hyped. Cosimo says, "Do you think Keefe will get fired soon?" He just signed a contract extension uh, right at the beginning of the season, so it's that kind of is indicative that that's most likely not going to happen. But if this goes really south, it could happen. It could happen. They'd have to go on a real run in order for Sheldon Keefe to get fired. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, unless things really go south. That's interesting. That's being brought up now. Lemon J says, "I don't think Matthews is going to stay a Leaf." All right. Well, if that's how you feel, stay tuned for my video coming out tomorrow. I'm going to be releasing a interview clip I've had with one of my past guests on this channel, and we had a little conversation about Austin Matthews' contract and what's going to happen when it expires. So stay tuned for that. It'll be released some point in the afternoon. Frank Rusty Nails. I said at the very beginning, with the 3-1 collapse in the playoffs, the moral of the team is shot. Unfortunately, the new players brought in don't inject any boost to their morale. Yeah, that's a great comment, Frank. The players that the Maple Leafs brought in were very underwhelming. To be honest, the signings that this team made in the offseason were very underwhelming. You lost Zach Hyman and Frederik Andersen in the offseason. You brought in Peter Mrazek. He's injured right now. And I do think that was a nice addition for the Maple Leafs. But Andre Kasha, injury history. David Kampf, center defensive guy. And then you have Michael Bunting, Nick Ritchie. You have a lot of guys trying to fill the void for a lot of players, but it's not a good mix. It's not a good mix right now. It's not looking good at all. Dennis says if there's no success for Matthews with the Leafs, he's gone. It's definitely a possibility. Definitely a possibility. JB says Kasha and Camp are useless. Uh, they're brought in here to be role players, but I mean, you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. That's a motto in life, and the same is applicable to the NHL free agency market. The Edmonton Oilers signed Zach Hyman, and he's doing well playing with Connor McDavid. The Toronto Maple Leafs got Andre Kasha, David Kampf, Nick Ritchie. Some of these guys that just were, I mean, honestly, it's like these aren't players that were really sought after in free agency. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them in any way, shape, or form, but that's just the way it is. Teams weren't teams weren't running and knocking on Nick Ritchie's door or David Kampf's door and asking him, hey, please come to this team. No, the Toronto Maple Leafs forced to fill. The Toronto Maple Leafs are forced to fill a majority of their lineup with players that maybe shouldn't be playing in those roles. Players are playing up in bigger roles, more ice time, because they have 4 forwards who are being paid a large sum of money. Jesse says Toronto has a hard division. Toronto does have a hard division, but that's no excuse. The Toronto Maple Leafs are supposed to be, this team's not in a development stage anymore. This team's supposed to be in win now mode. This team's been in win now mode for what feels like 3 or 4 years now. This team's been trying to win, trying to get to the Stanley Cup, but they can't even get past the first round. I don't want to hear about a hard division. It's not quite like they're in the AL East in baseball with the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, and they don't have the same money. No, because guess what? They have the same salary cap restrictions as everybody else. I don't care that it's a hard division. So is the Metro division. The Metro division's tough too. Frank Rusty Nails says Sandine needs a stay-at-home defense partner. Dermott isn't the right partner. He's pinching too much and causing too many turnovers. Yeah, Sandine does need a stay-at-home defense partner, and I think that that's something you want generally out of a defense pairing. Anyways, you want someone who's going to join up on the rush, someone who can stay at home, play more of a defensive role, and then someone who can generate some offense as well, maybe make some plays from the point. So I agree with you on that. I don't think that's really a good combo. There's a lot of speed and good skating there. I think you should spread that. Maybe like if you split Hall and Muzzin, put them with these two guys. Whatever way you want to shake that up, I think that would work. Breeby says, time to move some high prize talent out for a bunch of new players. I sense sarcasm from Breeby. It's yeah, it's just it's an endless cycle, isn't it? Endless cycle. JB says at least trade Riley now. What's everyone think about that, by the way? What do you think? Should the Maple Leafs trade Morgan Riley? Um, I'd like to see them get something back for Morgan Riley because I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign him after the season. Remember, Jack Campbell's also a free agent at the end of this season, so it's way too early to speculate about trading Morgan Riley. But if stuff goes south this year and the Maple Leafs aren't really in a playoff race or looking like a solid team that's contending, then yeah, I'd think about trading him then, but not this early in the season. I wouldn't trade Morgan Riley right now because it just doesn't make sense yet. Jay-Z says too much media in Toronto. The players can't focus on the game. Well, I don't really buy into that. I don't really buy into that at all because like come on. Seriously? Teams with media around them win. It's not just come on. I know it's a lot. The Toronto media is a lot. It's a lot to handle, it's a lot to deal with. There's a lot of noise outside. But if you're in that locker room, you should just it's hard to do, but maybe don't use social media if that that's going to bother you that much. If it's going to bother you, don't use social media. And if like seriously, if it's going to bother you, don't use social media. Don't do it. I don't know. I think that players need to focus on the game because it's their job. It's their job. It's literally their life. No, we saw the difference in structure today between the two teams. It's the biggest issue. Frank Rusty Nails says Riley's contract is weighing on him. He wants to show to get a big contract and making it hurt his play. Uh, I I'm not sure that's what it is. I think that just decision making needs to be better for Morgan Riley is the biggest thing with him. Nevin says, you know what? That's a good point, Nevin. It's not about the media. If you play good, this city is gonna treat you like a god. And yeah, I mean, seriously, think about the teams in Toronto. There's been what one championship in Toronto sports in 30 years out of the Raptors, Blue Jays, Maple Leafs. You've had one championship in 30 years, and it was for the Toronto Raptors. Do you remember the reception that the Toronto Raptors got after they won the championship in Toronto? It was huge. It was huge. The whole country united for that. If you win in Toronto, the city's going to treat you really well. It's going to treat you really well. So that's a great point, Neman. Uh, Media is in every market as well, Sean. I don't think that this is media can't be something that bothers you as a player in the NHL. It can bother you, but it can't derail you. It can't affect your performance at work because their work is on the ice. Every single day they go out there on the ice, and if they're on the ice thinking about social media, that's really concerning. It's really concerning. That shouldn't be a problem. Would you rather win the cup in Tampa Bay where nobody cares about hockey or have a statue of you made in a city that loves hockey? If you're asking me, like actually what I'd prefer to do if I was a professional athlete, I'd take the cup because I'm a team player. I know you want to win a Stanley Cup. That's what teams want to do. That's what people want to do. You want to win. You play the game to win. Yeah, no taxes and better weather too. There you go, JB. So tonight, not much going for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not much offense again. And it's an offensive minded team. But the offense that they did get, Austin Matthews scored his first goal of the season. It was against his good friend Frederik Andersen and his former teammate Frederik Andersen With that goal, Austin Matthews became the fastest U.S.-born player in NHL history to reach 200 goals. It's just another individual accomplishment for Austin Matthews, but ultimately didn't result in the victory. Wasn't enough in this game. Definitely not enough. How is Marner doing? John Gray says, "How is Marner doing?" How do you think Marner? How do you think Marner's doing? Seriously, how do you think? Oh, that's a great. That's a great one. That's a great comparison. He's like the Bill. He's like the Bills on the 1 yard line against Kansas City. Not doing too well. Or no, that was against Tennessee. But yeah, Mitch Marner not doing too well right now. Nothing is. No, nothing's going well for Mitch right now. Sean Kemp says, Babcock was the right coach, but we have babies that aren't tough and it shows. Leafs are a soft hockey team. They don't hit or like getting hit. Well, Sean, I don't think you say. I don't think it's Babcock was the right coach for this team. I don't think that's what it is at all. I don't think it's Mike Babcock. I don't think that's it. Deep Void says Marner is completely deflated. Zero confidence. Yeah. Yeah. He is. He is. And it shows. He's not playing with any confidence at all. And wow. No confidence for Mitch Marner at all. Right now, just the way he's playing, it shows that, and it's not just Mitch Marner, okay? I know he's the one that we're all looking to. He's the one that's going to get the most criticism right now because of his contract and his performance in last year's playoff. That's carried over to this season. His struggles have carried over from last season, and that's concerning. You'd expect him to change that. You'd expect this whole Leafs team to change that, but it's just the same thing over and over again. Cameron Knox says, do you think Keefe keeps the lines the way they were tonight against Chicago? We might see a couple changes here and there, maybe a few minor things, but I don't think we're going to see many changes. Usually you like to stick with the lines more than one night, but it wasn't exactly a pretty performance from the Toronto Maple Leafs there. So we'll see what Sheldon Keefe does on Wednesday against the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Blackhawks are a struggling team. Patrick Kane's out right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs better take advantage of the Chicago Blackhawks on Wednesday. Deep Void, of course you can. Of course you can make a toast to Jason Spezza. He is a heart and soul guy, and he's someone that you love to watch. He's an exciting player to watch. But I have to say, when he's been one of the best players on the Maple Leafs this year, and he was one of the best players on the Maple Leafs in the playoffs last year. So that's a bit of a concern to me that Jason Spezza, who's on a league minimum contract, he's one of the best players on the Maple Leafs right now through the first 7 games of the season. It's great for Jason Spezza, and I love watching him play the game. I love just seeing how much emotion he plays the game with. But it's not ideal to have a league minimum guy that's a veteran who's been in the league 19 years now. It's not ideal to have him being one of your best players through 7 games. It's not ideal. They didn't win when Pittsburgh players were out. Would they be able to do it against Chicago? I guess we'll find out. We will see. We will see. I sure hope they can beat the Chicago Blackhawks. That team is a mess right now. Uh, like I just said, Patrick Kane's out. And yeah, the Leafs need to win. The Leafs need to win bad because uh, people are hitting the panic button in Toronto right now. And there's another button I'd like you to press. If you haven't already, can you make sure you please smash that like button and hit the notification bell to be notified every time new content's being released here on Maple Leafs Media. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please share this video, share it to a group, a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend, whatever. It all helps out Maple Leafs Media big time. Um, Bringing out content all the time. I'll be here Wednesday night. Chicago Blackhawks, Toronto Maple Leafs play. That'll be the 8th game of the season for Toronto. It's going to be a 7:30 p.m. start, so I'll be here again post game for that one. Wilfred says if they lose to Chicago, that will be a new low. Yeah, the Chicago Blackhawks haven't won a game yet, so it would be very leafy to lose that game, wouldn't it? Wow. The storylines that can happen for the Toronto Maple Leafs, like it just feels like whatever storyline that whatever negative storyline that can be portrayed, it oftentimes actually happens. Like we actually see these things happen, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how much this fan base has endured. Wow. I read all comments. I read all the comments. Chicago has the worst defense. They look so bad. Well, the Maple Leafs offense hasn't been very great, so should be a good matchup. We'll see. Maybe the Maple Leafs can take advantage and use that to get on track. I'm trying to be positive here. I'm trying to be positive. Maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs can go into Chicago Wednesday and maybe they can turn things around. Maybe they can get some positive momentum on their side. Maybe, just maybe. Fingers crossed. Let's hope for the best. T. Dot says Dubas destroyed this team. Um, I don't know if I'd agree with Dubas destroyed this team. I think there have been some things that I definitely don't agree with that Kyle Dubas has done. But yeah, honestly, there's been a lot of things that I don't agree with, but I can't say he's destroyed this team. I just don't think his model works. I'm not certain his model works in the NHL level. And our man says letting Lou and firing Babcock, biggest mistake Shanahan made. Uh, I think Lou Lamoriello, that was more of a mistake than Mike Babcock. I'm not sure about Mike Babcock being a mistake, but I do think Lou Lamoriello was a mistake. Lou Lamoriello, we heard all about how players can't pick because when Lou Lamoriello was the manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, we heard all about how players can't pick numbers over a certain whatever. Like they can't pick higher numbers, and you can't have long hair and beards. They didn't want you to have facial hair, but you know what? It was working. The model that Lou Lamoriello had was working. It was working. And then we went back to what this team had for the past 50 years before that. It's like this team took a step back. Seems like this team took a step back when Lou Lamoriello stepped down, doesn't it? And I'm hopeful and optimistic about Kyle Dubas and the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but his time's running out. His time is running out. And it really hurts to see Lou Lamoriello and what he's done on Long Island with the Islanders. We've seen Lou Lamoriello win Stanley Cups before. We've seen him construct Stanley Cup championship teams in the past, and he's had the New York Islanders go to the conference finals, what, 2 of the past 3 seasons? And I think that they're going to go to the Stanley Cup this year. I think it's going to be the New York Islanders and the Colorado Avalanche in the Cup this year. So, yeah, I think it was a mistake to let Lou Lamoriello go. Nevin says, Lou believes in team identity. Dubas believes in individual skill. I like Dubas, but still saying this. Lou is a great hockey man. Absolutely. He has a great knowledge for the game of hockey, and that's why he's won the Stanley Cup. That's why he's been able to stick around as a GM in the league for so long, because he's able to adapt to the game as it changes, and he's able to make it work. And we have Mike Babcock in the chat today. Wow, Coach, how's it going? I bet you're enjoying watching this, aren't you? Do you think that Mike Babcock is sitting there at home and just loving every minute of this, the demise of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Is he just eating this up? Kirk says, we miss you. Babcock. Yeah, we got Mike Babcock in the chat. Mike Babcock says, I feel bad, but I knew I was right the whole time. Donnie says, I don't recall any odd man rushes against Freddie tonight. Campbell had a few. I thought that Frederik Andersen, he didn't really get many uh, high percentage scoring opportunities against him. The Maple Leafs, they had a good amount of shots, but they weren't solid scoring opportunities. And that's why they had 1 goal in this game. There wasn't really many opportunities for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Frederik Andersen didn't have to make out any outstanding saves. It wasn't any, oh wow, Freddie chance, because they didn't need that. T. Dot says Babcock loves this, feeds his ego. Yeah, I bet Babcock's sitting home loving this right now. He's got to love this. Donnie says they only scored 1 against the Penguins too. Yeah, and the Penguins had a completely depleted lineup. That's scary. That's scary. Toronto Maple Leafs haven't even scored more than 3 goals once this year. It's not good. There's a comment here from Josh Mann. If you were the GM, what changes would you make? Oh boy. That's a long list, I think. Um, if I could like go back in time, or do I have to start from scratch like right now? Do I have to go from what I have right now, or can I go back in time? Can I fix some things? If I was the GM right now, I guess first thing I'd do is figure out what's going on with Morgan Riley's contract. That'd be the first thing you have to do. What's going on with Morgan Riley's contract? And if you got to pull Morgan Riley into your office and you got to have a conversation with him. You got to see where he's at, how he's feeling, and you have to acknowledge the years that he's put in for this franchise. And you could say, "Hey, we'd like you to take a pay cut, stay with this team, but like the Maple Leafs don't have enough money to even make that work, I don't think. Like even if they got Morgan Riley to take a pay cut, it's going to be hard to get that deal done. And then they have to worry about Jack Campbell as well. There's a lot of changes to make if you're the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think you got to start with Morgan Riley. Figure out if you're going to trade him away this season or if you're going to go all in this year again. Uh, Wilfred says Freddie carried the Leafs many years. Yeah, Frederik Andersen was a rock in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs for many years, and he's fourth all time in wins by Maple Leaf goaltender. He had a very, very great. He had a good tenure here in Toronto, and it didn't end up. We didn't end up getting the playoff results we would have liked to see with Frederik Andersen, but there's a lot of great memories with him as the goaltender here in Toronto, and I'm thinking back to that uh, Toronto Boston series, one of them where he just made that amazing stick save, and Scotiabank Arena exploded, screaming Freddie. That was my favorite memory of Frederik Andersen with the Maple Leafs. Uh, Al says, meanwhile, Eichel sits and waits for a new home. If you're suggesting that the Maple Leafs should trade for Jack Eichel and you expect Jack Eichel to make an immediate impact on this roster, you've been on the moon for the past few months or something. Uh, Jack Eichel, Jack Eichel's trade situation, it's not gonna be resolved anytime soon. I don't think he can get traded, but he's not gonna be on the ice anytime soon. It's gonna be at least 4 months before he gets out there. He's got to get a surgery still. So Jack Eichel, we can talk about him all we want, but chances are Jack Eichel's not making an impact on any roster this year other than the Buffalo Sabres. And that's not a positive impact because it's just a description or because it's just a distraction to that team. But I think they've been handling that rather well, actually. Josh Man says, I subbed. You make a good point. Thank you very much, Josh Man. I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It's very appreciated. And I hope you check out more of these post game shows. I'm here after most shows. Have a had a bit of a tough time getting on here, but for a lot of these early games in the season, but I'll be here 82 game season. We got a lot of streams to go. Won't be here for all of them, but I'll do as many as I can. Fire Dubas, Shanahan takes over as manager and power play coach. Um, I'm not sure that Brandon. I don't think that you can just throw yourself into a GM role. I'm sure that Brendan Shanahan knows how to construct a hockey team, but I'm not sure you can just throw him into the GM role. I don't think you can do that. John Howard says we may need a retool soon. And John Howard, no, because a retool is what the Toronto Maple Leafs have been doing every single season. It's what they've been doing every single season. Rebuilding is my definition of rebuild is you're starting from scratch basically. You're getting rid of everybody, you're rebuilding top from bottom. Retooling is you're losing some of your complementary pieces up and down your lineup constantly. That's what's happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs every year. They're retooling every year. You have new pieces coming in to fill wing positions on the third and fourth line. Zach Hyman's gone now. Frederik Andersen's gone now. So the Maple Leafs retooled with the likes of Andre Kasha, Michael Bunting, uh, Nick Ritchie, and last year, some of these guys that you brought in that last year's retool, Wayne Simmons. You had Jimmy Vesey was part of that retool. Travis Boyd. This retooling's been going on for years now. It's not just we need a retool. The Maple Leafs need a plan. They need to figure things out. They need to figure out what they're doing with this organization. They need contributions from their players because this team, they're trying to win right now. They need to turn it around though. Wilfred says it. They still have time to turn it around, but might not make the playoffs. Well, it's early. It seems so early for us to be getting this worked up about it. But yeah, they have a lot of time to turn things around. Uh, I said before this season that it's not a gimme for the Toronto Maple Leafs to get into the playoffs. I don't think that. Um, I didn't think that it was going to be easy for the Maple Leafs to get in to the playoffs just because of how tough the division is, and honestly, how tough the conference is. If you look at the Metropolitan Division as well, so um, yeah, it's a long season, and I do think that this team should be in the playoffs, but it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be a give me. But yeah, so if you haven't already, please make sure you smash the like button and hit the notification bell to be notified every time new content's being released here on Maple Leafs Media. It's been a long night. It's been a long night. The Toronto Maple Leafs lose again. This time to the Carolina Hurricanes, 4-1. A lifeless loss. No offensive output from the Maple Leafs whatsoever, outside of one Austin Matthews goal on a wraparound. So that's all for tonight. The Maple Leafs look to rebound Wednesday night when they face Chicago Blackhawks. And the Blackhawks are a mess right now. The Maple Leafs need to get back on track against Chicago. So I'll be back here for a post-game show Wednesday night. I hope to see you then. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm your guy, Jake. Go Leafs. Go.